I call this committee of the whole meeting to order on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 at 6 p.m. If we could please take a roll call.
Mindy Hartman,
Here.
Jason Janczyk,
Here.
Dee Darling,
Here.
Julie Jetty,
Here.
Stacy Salt,
Here.
Bridget Sandlin,
Here.
Catherine Potter.
Here. Okay, next up is the acceptance of the agenda. Items for discussion may be added to the agenda at the start of the meeting at the request of the superintendent or any board member upon majority approval of those members present. Does any board member have an item to add tonight? Hearing none. Next up, we have community input. Doesn't appear that there's anyone here. So we'll skip on to the approval of previous meeting minutes. The approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2025 meeting. Does any committee member have any changes to the minutes? Hearing none. Can you put those on consent, please? Items for discussion tonight. The first item we have is the district AI plan update. Ms. Williams.
Hello. Nice to see you guys. I haven't seen you in a while. Okay, so I'm here to share our progress on the AI implementation plan. We're really focused on progress towards a thoughtful, ethical, and instructional approach to AI, ensuring that AI supports teaching, learning, and student success throughout Cary 26. So in July 2025, the board charged the district with developing an AI plan. We aligned it to the House and Senate bills and then the ISB Press Policy 6235. So this ensures that all of the work that we're doing is compliant, transparent, and grounded in policy and not trends. We then developed an AI implementation plan framework consisting of 3 phases, and then utilize the district technology committee that meets every month to help develop the plan. So as you see, these are the 3 phases of the plan. These phases help us to be intentional in the pacing of our work and prevents reactionary decision-making and keeps instruction at the center of the plan. So phase 1 is about the exploration and awareness. That was done October, November, December. Phase 2 is about vision and guardrails development, January, February, and March. And phase 3 focuses on the finalization and the prep needed for implementation, and that'll happen April and May. So I wanted to highlight some of the phase 1 work that has been done. Again, the purpose of phase 1 is to build an understanding of AI in education before making any decisions. So before designing our professional development plan or our communication plan as components of the framework or of the plan, we wanted to make sure that we had a common understanding of what AI is. So we started with the learning sessions, reading several articles about what AI in education is, what the benefits are, what some of the concerns are from various stakeholders. Through all of that reading of the different articles and discussions and activities, we created a common language for what AI in education looks like. We then moved on to guiding principles, and we established those to guide the AI use, protect our data, and ensure AI enhances, not replaces, professional judgment. Then moved on to creating a vision statement. This is in draft form. Can't say that enough, draft form. So we're going to be working on that next month and the following months. But really that's about, it's going to be serving kind of as our North Star for safe, ethical, and instructional AI use. And then we designed surveys for our students in grades 3 through 8, our staff, and then our parents and guardians. And so we were able to get those developed, sent out, and we had over 1,200 responses. So we were pretty excited. And just a few hours ago in our meeting, we were starting our first look at that survey information. So there's a lot of really good information that people shared, all those different stakeholders. That's going to be a tremendous help as we move forward. We developed these 4 guiding principles: safety, educational quality, transparency, and data privacy. Again, those go back to the House Senate bills and that press policy as well, using that language for consistency. It's going to serve as our guardrails as we continue on developing the plan and all the different components of that. It's going to help us to establish values that will inform decision-making, guide the development of the plan, and ensure consistency across the district. So here is the draft of the district-aligned vision statement, though it's really a paragraph, not really a statement. So we're going to be working on that and condensing that down a bit. But the draft emphasizes a human-centered, learner-driven approach. AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for staff or for critical thinking. The key message here is that AI can enhance learning, but human connection is what drives understanding. So when we drafted that vision statement, we started with the articles that we had been reading, and then we looked at the mission and the vision statements from the district. We looked at the strategic plan goals. We looked at goal 1, 2, 3, and aligned it with the student success, the learning culture, exceptional staff. We looked at the portrait of a graduate, and we wanted to make sure we were in alignment with that as well, with the technology and digital literacy component of the portrait of the graduate, the decision-making and problem-solving component, and making sure it's inclusive and open to all students, all staff, as well as the instructional framework. So this ensures that AI is not an add-on, it's not a side note to what's happening in the district, but it's integrated into what we already value as a district. And then the survey data, again, there's a ton of data, but I just wanted to grab like the top 3 from each of the stakeholder groups. And so this is in alignment when we look at national survey data as well as with AI in education. So I was kind of encouraged by that. But our students, 877 students, responded to the survey in grades 3 through 8, and they see AI as an academic support. It's that go-to when I just don't understand some concept or I want to dive deeper. So it can be my personal tutor, whether that's in the classroom needing more work, whether that's at home, so I can figure out how do I do that math problem or whatever it is. So they're looking at that as a positive, but they're worried about the accuracy and the independent thinking, which personally was encouraged to see that. I feel like the digital citizenship lessons that all of our students get 3 times a year, every one of our students from kindergarten through 8th grade have a digital citizenship lesson once every trimester. So I feel like the message is getting there. Like they realize that just because it's on the internet doesn't necessarily mean it's true, that they have to look critically at that information and decide. So I thought that was a big bonus. I don't know. I thought that was great that they realize that, and that they're concerned about their critical thinking and independent thinking, that they're concerned that they're not going to be doing the thinking anymore. The machine is going to be doing the thinking. So I looked at that as a real positive. We're certainly going to be using that data again as we move forward with our implementation components. The parents, we had 241 parents respond to the survey. They are in support of AI literacy. They feel like their students need to know what AI is, how to use it, what some of the pitfalls are, what the benefits are. So they see that as a real need. They want privacy protection and academic integrity policies put in place before we implement. And that will be part of our plan. So we will be doing that. We had 103 staff members fill out the survey, and they see AI as a powerful administrative support. So many districts are reporting out that their staff are saving anywhere from 2 to 7 hours a week just using AI for some simple tasks like helping them with newsletters or emails. And so now the exciting part is, what are we using those 2 to 7 hours for now? And we're using it to really engage our students, to work with our students and collaborate with our students where they didn't have time so much before. We can now push that off to AI. They're still developing it. They're still going to be learning about prompt engineering to how to create those things. They're still going to be writing the emails, but maybe they're throwing it into AI to polish it or to check for tone or something like that. So, so that was encouraging. They are worried about student skill erosion. They're concerned about detecting AI. They're nervous about how am I going to know if my students are using AI or not? And what tools are we using and have they been vetted out? So those were some of the concerns that all three stakeholders shared. And again, some of the benefits that they saw AI having in education. We also had 39% of our students, our staff indicating that they're interested in a pilot program. Again, very encouraged by that. We had one committee member who said, you can ask it, but nobody's going to have time. Nobody's going to be interested. And I said, it doesn't hurt to ask. So we put it on there. And so I was encouraged. We have a mix of classroom teachers, resource staff, administrators, and specialists that are interested. I'll be meeting with them soon as we get that pilot more defined. We just started working on that. So hopefully within the next week, I'll have that better defined and I'll work with that team that was interested, let them know what the expectations are, what's going to be happening, the data that's going to be collected, and then see if they're able to do that and still interested, and then we'll take it from there. So the summary of phase one, which was about exploration and awareness, is that we learned about AI in education. We developed the guiding principles. We drafted a vision statement. And we developed and sent out the staff, student, and parent surveys. So key takeaways from our phase one is understanding first before decision making. We have now a strong foundation as a team of what AI in education means. Again, pros, cons, what to look for, how to meet the needs. Ethical and responsible use of AI is paramount, and that the data is going to be used to guide the planning. So what's next? Because we got so much done in phase one, the guardrails were initially in phase two, so we bumped that up. And so we revised phase two, which is January, February, and March, with the goal of going from high-level principles to more concrete. We'll finalize the vision statement and guiding principles. We'll establish clear usage expectations and guardrails. We'll launch the pilot, and then we will draft guidance and agreement documents. And so I have some language for the updating our AUA acceptable use agreement to incorporate AI. And Andy doesn't know this, but I'll be meeting with him soon. So we'll be going over that. And so then we'll be bringing that back to the committee in February. After that is phase three, April and May, and that's where we're going to finalize the plan, the draft of the plan. We're going to develop our professional development roadmap and toolkit. We already had a parent workshop last November with a representative from the U.S. Attorney General's office talking to parents about AI, how to talk to their students or their kids about AI, what to look for. Really super helpful, practical tips on that. Lots of information that some of it was a bit jaw-dropping, but really good for parents to know, be aware of so that they can have those conversations with their kids. So we'll continue building out that professional development roadmap and toolkit, design a communication and transparency plan, and then prep for that thoughtful rollout. So that includes the update of our AI implementation work.
Take a second and just say thank you, Ms. Williams. It was at the beginning of the school year, right, of this school year that it was, hey, let's talk about developing a plan. And I came to her at the start of the school year and said, hey, guess what? I got a task for you. And she hit the ground and she ran with it. So I just want to say thank you for the time that you've put into this, the thought and the collaboration as well that you've done with seeking input from staff, students, and our parent community as well. And thank you to Ms. Sandlin for being at the meetings.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. And she puts us to work. Like there's homework, there's tasks they
Yes.
have to do. So
Yeah, she doesn't mess around.
A little bit of a taskmaster.
Questions that we can answer at this time? Again, this is just an update, nothing is set in stone.
I remember Ms. Williams talking to you at the new student or new teacher luncheon about AI, and you said you were going to be working on this, and it's really looks really nice. So if you're finishing in May, so then basically you're implemented during the next school year with all staff?
That's part of the plan. That's part of what we're still figuring out.
Okay.
So
And part of the implementation, you'll have some measurement of how successful it is or how well it's been implemented or something to report back? Do you have a date at which you'll report back to us, another progress on it?
no, I don't, but I'm happy to report
Okay,
back. So
okay.
So
I'm going to punt over to Yvette. So whenever she puts me on the calendar and Jen, I'm happy to
Okay.
report back.
So I think a fair update would be at the end of this school year to be able to provide you now another check-in,
Uh-huh.
right? We did one right now in January. So now letting them go through those next 2 phases to
Uh-huh.
kind of tease out some of the questions that you've brought here. And then we'll bring another update to you at the end of the school year. Regardless of when we look at some of the effective implementation that we've had currently in Cary 26, it leads with professional development. It leads with the communication. It leads with the awareness. It leads with ensuring that everybody's on the same page. So that would be the first thing that we did as part of a rollout implementation plan. It wouldn't just be, hey, here we are. It's the next school year. Have at it. So that's all of what they're going through right now
Okay.
is teasing out all of those finite details of what does that look like and when and what.
Okay.
Yes. So May.
But
Thank you.
I like the 4 principles that you have there. That was good.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like that.
Okay, I have a few questions. Will we need to approve this when it's finished? Does this come before the board for approval?
I mean, if it's a policy, at some point it would come, but if it's I have a similar question to you because I think financially, if there's a component where we have to buy a security piece, that's going to come back to us. But I think if it's a policy, if it's not policy, if it's not a purchase piece, I don't know that it has to come
Well,
back. It's got to be
The
up.
policy is to develop this plan.
Yes. So then they've got to, but it's not an approval necessarily. They have to develop it.
But I do think, because we will talk about the policy shortly, and that number 5 in the policy could address Julie's desire for updates about it. If maybe we just add with the board to it, so then those updates are made with us. But that's just tonight. I was just wondering if we needed to approve this, if this would be coming back to us for approval when it's finished. But what other resources and research were you using to put together this plan? Other than the, I guess, you say that you have HB 2503, SB 1920, and the policy, but what other resources were you using or frameworks were you using to guide your work here?
So it's a pretty exhaustive list that will be part of the plan. So I'll document that, but I've had like admin academies on this. I've met with districts from around the state for a full day, couple days of AI leadership with different speakers who have written different papers. It's a big list. So I'll make sure that it's noted.
Okay. And then about the pilot, if you do go, it's just a general question about, I guess, pilot program. So if a family if a student is partaking in a pilot, does the family get notified or does the permission slip go home or anything like that?
So yeah, so since we don't have the finite details of what the pilot is, yeah,
We do pilots around here, you know?
for sure. Like we,
pilot stuff.
right, like we pilot curriculum and we don't notify parents that they're
That's okay. then
trying
you just-
curriculum, right?
Okay, then you answered my question, right?
But that's a case by case scenario because we also understand the sensitivity of this topic. So it would be a conversation of discussion. So I'm not going to say no right now because I also understand that there are different levels of concern as it relates to AI. So that would be a conversation to take that into consideration of, is this something we do want to communicate to parents? Because it'd be better to communicate with transparency, have people on our side versus, hey, we did this, you didn't know, and now you're against it for whatever reason, right? We want to do this in a collaborative approach. So I don't have a direct answer for you as of yet, but please know that it's not a hard no. It's we need to tease out the details of what this is going to encompass and what it's going to look like. Then I think we'll have a better gauge of what the next communication plan would be. It's all in thought process mode right now. Only phase one has actually happened in concrete form. The next part are all of these conversations.
Okay, because yeah, I'm just wondering what our standard procedure with that is. It is a lot of survey feedback for our district. It's an incredible amount of survey.
It's one of our
feedback.
largest.
I just want to be sure in thinking about policy that our policies would align with the values of the community, that the desires of the community. I would love to hear the feedback from the parents, just ensuring that all of this would align with our values, I guess, as a community, or making sure that any concerns that are raised are addressed in the policy or addressed with the administration or in AP or whatever, like, so
So I
people
will
don't
say-
get angry or anything like
Yeah.
that.
So I was just going to say that we talked about it as a committee earlier as well. So all of the information, so there was intentionally a question on the survey asking if you have any questions. And so what we're going to do with that then is create an FAQ on most likely a web page, whatever it's going to be, but whatever that communication is, and we'll address all the questions that were put on there. We're going to address them because we want people to know. We want to be transparent. If you have concerns, you see this as a benefit, whatever it is, we'll make sure that we compile all of that, and then we will have responses for that. It's also going to help us draft again, whether it's the where do we start the implementation, or what kind of training or professional development is needed. So all that's coming out of that survey information, it's quite a bit. And as Bridget can attest, we're going to be using that. We used it today, and we'll be using it throughout the remainder of the year.
And that would include professional learning. We call it professional learning, even for our families through like a parent university, right? So if there's information that they need, we have a platform where we can get that information out to our community. I also just want to reiterate that the work that's being done here is rooted in our strategic plan, right? And our strategic plan was something that represents the voice of the Cary 26 community. So as long as we continue to use that as our North Star, then we are aligning this work with the vision and the values of Cary 26.
That's awesome, because I was confused, because when we looked at this, it's got the strategic plan alignment to the district, but it left out strategic goal plan 4, which is strategic partnerships, which is actively engaging the families and the community as vital parts in the educational experience. And I thought that should be on there too.
Thank you.
And thank you for that
Appreciate that.
feedback.
We missed that one.
That
You
was
know,
oversight
like,
on our
there
part.
you go.
That's all it is an oversight.
Um,
But we did, when we drafted it, we all had copies of the strategic plan, of the goals, of the portrait of a graduate, of instructional framework. We had all of that, the guidelines. We had all that in front of us as we were creating, because we did want to make sure it wasn't just a kind of a side thing that's done over here, an add-on. We wanted to make sure that this is all rooted in the values of Cary 26. And these are established values. And that's what we wanted to make sure we were in alignment with.
do you have any kind of, I know that the state is required to come out with guidance, July 1st, about 9 different areas. Are you afraid at all that any of this work is going to be or not?
Well, those guiding principles, those 4 components are directly out of the House bill. So did that intentionally so that whatever they do create, we will be in alignment. Other districts created other pillars or whatever, but I wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with the House bill because of that reason.
Okay. Do you know if are there any requirements that we have to list, or any on our website, anything about which tools we're using currently that have AI, or
Well, currently SOPA covers all digital tools that we are using, so that's on there. There's nothing AI specific other than they mandate 8 different components for internet safety, and we have a 9th component that we're mandated to teach our kids, and that will be an AI component. And again, that's already drafted into the, unless I said it at the committee meeting and didn't say it here, but that's already in part of our district-wide technology digital citizenship plan.
And then we give during the registration process is just permission given.
Right.
Okay. And how do we give permission I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about policy.
That's
I
good.
just want,
It's good to
I
have
just
all
want
the
you to
different
know,
lenses
I'm
looking
not
at it.
grilling. I just
It's-
want to know.
No, that's super helpful. And I do appreciate all of the feedback. So it makes the plan a better plan. Right now they're digital tools. So there's nothing specific to AI. It's still covered in, I don't remember what the verbiage is on the registration, but giving this parents giving permission for digital tools, it falls under that. It won't have to be anything separate. Again, we will include AI verbiage in our acceptable use agreement specific, but it'll still be in alignment with the code of conduct for students, but we'll just add specific language that's AI related.
I'm not an attorney, but if we're gonna,
Me neither.
we might want to add specific language to that so parents know what they're approving. But
All eyes on you.
thank you for the presentation and answering my questions.
Can I jump in next with, I've got 2.
I did take a law class on AS, so I might be able to.
I haven't. It didn't exist when I was in law
In
school.
my notes.
That's, I'm going to jump on. I'm with Catherine in the parent feedback of, I don't know how you pilot this without telling the parents and getting the feedback. And here's the parent perspective of why, because I think both my kids are could fall into this. I've got a 3rd and a 6th grader. They bring their iPads home. They're doing whatever they were doing in school. They have figured out 3 side ways around to play games on the internet anyway, no matter the fact that we have disabled all of it. They're smarter than we are. We know that. Which means if we put this tool in their hand, they're going to come home and show us the picture they created, the something funny, the whatever it is. Some of it's not going to be appropriate because my third grader makes bad decisions all the time. Not all kids make good decisions. So if my kid was getting access to that, I would want to know as a parent, because I want to know where the dumb thing he's about to show me came from, and to be able to send it back his teacher and go, hey, guess what's happening? You need to know too. We both need to talk about this.
Yep, that's good feedback.
So from a parent, it's not that I'm pro or con. I'm fine. If it's being provided for the school, obviously, I feel very good that we're going to provide a safe tool, but I would still want to know with the parent hat on that that's what's getting opened up, just because it's wild, wild west right now. My secondary question is actually, it may be a Mr. Shepherd question even, is based on all the tools we have in the subscriptions we pay for and things like that, is the AI tool we are talking about using something already covered under one of the many things we pay for, or is there a new thing coming our way?
Would you like to take a stab at answering it? No, I'm interested on what you would say. So again, we're figuring out what the tools are. There are some tools out there that are free, that wouldn't cost anything. There are some tools out there that would cost something. That is part of that next step. I can tell you right now, I don't believe there's anything that we currently have that would, like it would fall under there and it's already covered, right? We don't have anything specific, like what's.
I guess why I was thinking we might is because we have Google subscriptions, right? And Google's
Right.
pushed the
Right.
AI into everything. So
And that's the thing, right? Like we have Google, and yes, but even when you look at that, right, there's like autocorrect, there's things that are already built into that system, but there are other additional things that we can look into, and some of them are free, some of them do cost. I know we talked about Notebook LM. Notebook LM is a ridiculous amount where I was like, nope, that's off the table. Let's not even look at that. But that's also part of the process of when we went and reevaluated which again, thank you to you on helping spearhead that as well. It was the, all the technology, that we use currently, subscriptions, right? And the words weren't, no.
I was waiting.
The words weren't wording for a moment. We went through all the technology subscriptions and we, got rid of some that were redundant, right? And so that helps in this scenario.
Okay, I just have to say, we actually cut them in half.
We did cut them in half.
It was
We sure did.
not fun, but we did it. We
For
did
sure.
it.
And we're still,
And we're still working our way through that.
I was going to say, and if you recall, we're still phasing out some at the end of this year, which would then we could look and pivot, say, okay, we're getting, for example, reading eggs at the end of this year. It goes away because we'll have iReady,
Yeah.
right? So then it becomes okay. There are funds, right?
Of course.
But is that what we want to use it for? But some of them are free, so we're still figuring that out.
That's where I sit here on the board. And Jason, of course, he's in a school environment. You're leaps and bounds ahead of what is going on this one. I don't know this one. I know, from my business, when they're marketing me closed AI, those dollars are never going to make sense. I don't know. I'm sure the same kind of price tag comes when you're marketing to schools. There's an uptick for the closed AI and all that stuff. So that was just my question, is whether we had it or not yet. If you come back to us, that my mind's not closed. I was just curious.
Yeah,
Okay.
it will fit within the teaching and learning budget, whatever it is.
So that was actually going to be my question too, because Gemini, I believe, is included in Workspace for Education, or GAF, or whatever we're calling it this year.
It changes every year.
Google changes it every year. It's crazy. Right now, that's turned off for our kids. Is that correct, Andy? But is it turned on for our teachers? Okay, so the teachers have access to it, but the student logins are closed to it. Okay. All right, that's what I was double checking, because I know it's included, but I didn't know if you had the ability, like where I'm at, it's open for everybody. So I didn't know if there's an ability to turn it off for student versus teacher. Okay. That was the only, and Notebook LM, it's been kind of a game changer for us. I know, but Dave's clenching his wallet right now. I understand that, but
The amount.
yeah, it's crazy.
And
I will
there's a free version of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
within a certain amount of queries, but
Yeah.
it's really changed our reassessment.
I was not familiar with Notebook LM until one of my professors introduced it to me. And when he did, it was like
Awesome.
my mind just,
The podcast and the videos,
Yeah.
it's so cool. So
we haven't
anyway,
tried it.
we'll nerd out later, Lynn, but
Oh,
it's
Looking
pretty.
forward to that. We actually used it to create our vision statement. We did this activity, and then we dumped it all into, and then it pursed it all.
Awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
Very cool. Thank you for the clarification on that student versus teacher login. I appreciate that.
I just want, thanks to the committee for their work. I'm glad to hear that we're not increasing the amount of time that they'll be on their iPads. AI is so unregulated right now. It worries me, and it worries me about the fact that our state has already announced that these data centers are consuming so much energy that our energy costs are going to go up in the state of Illinois. So for me, we can't increase the amount of time, because then we're just all on our, it's going to come back to all of us paying for that data consumption. So I do support it being used as a tool in the classroom, but I don't think anything replaces that teacher human connection.
Absolutely.
Do you have thought about that too? And how AI and the environmental impact, it's going to harm the kids that we're trying to help with it in the long term is concern. I listen to a lot of NPR, so it could be terrifying. There are policies we have about being energy efficient and stuff too. It's just they kind of contradict and resource. Be mindful of that stuff.
It's above all of our pay grade here. This is for sure. They need to figure it out at the highest levels on how to control and rein this in, because there are no guardrails right now for this, as you can attest. So that's all I had. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the review of the bills. Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Shepherd on those?
The one thing that I would add on the review of the bills, you'll notice that in the packet for this month, there were two styles of reports, and that's because we officially wrapped up our time with SDS, and we've now spent a whole 2 weeks in Skyward Land. So you're going to see these reports that we provide to the board change over time. We're trying to find the style of report that we think is going to convey the information that you all need the clearest way we can to ensure that there's not confusion on what exactly you're approving every month. So we're going to take some time over the coming months to really look at these reports. You'll probably see in your week in review that I'll be asking for feedback at times, just to get a sense of where you're at with the type of reports that we're providing. Lastly, a big shout out to not only my department, but also the HR department for the work in implementing this software. I think people underestimate the challenge that this is, moving from one financial software to the next. And it proved to be something that I hope to only have to do once in my career. But we could not have done it without the incredible work of every single member of the business office and HR department who were working all throughout the holiday break while everyone was enjoying time off with friends and family to make sure that our first payroll went smoothly on January 5th. We continue to learn and adapt as we get used to the new software, but kudos to the HR and business office.
No question. If not, we can move back to the consent agenda. Next up, we have the treasurer's report, Mr. Shepherd.
So we have reached the official halfway point of the fiscal year. I think I tell the board this year after year, but each year goes by quicker and quicker. Before you know it, we'll be talking about the fiscal year 27 budget in June. So my hope is tonight we'll go through the slides like we normally do, and then I have a couple of takeaways for the board on where I think we're at in this fiscal year and where I think we're going to end up. And also looking a little bit long-term as well as where we're going. So let's dive right in to the revenues. I was very happy to see the revenue and expenditure data as we've gone through this fiscal year, because it's really lining up with where we think we're going to be. You'll notice our total revenues are slightly exceeding, but it's about where we would expect. Local revenues are right where we would expect them to be. Our state revenues are catching up to where we expect them to be. And in fact, we saw a bigger transportation claim payment in October than we initially thought we were going to get and budgeted for. So we should receive 3 more payments of those before the end of the fiscal year. We're still lagging a little bit behind in state sources because the state has been a little putsy in issuing payment for the teacher vacancy grant. What we've noticed is before last couple fiscal years, we'd get a reliable payment every month. Now, for whatever reason, this fiscal year will go a couple months and then they'll give us 2 or 3 months worth of payments all at the same time. So I'm confident that we will get those funds. I'm just not quite sure when. As far as our total expenses, again, it's right where we think we should expect to be at this point in time of the year. We're seeing our salaries come in slightly lower, knowing that the accruals will cause this to get caught back up in the summer. And you'll notice that all other objects is actually not pacing as far ahead as we would have thought at this point in time in the year compared to where we were at in the beginning of the year. So our rate of expenditure seems to have slowed. I think that's in part due to the fact that we've had fewer larger payments going out because we're not doing as much construction right now. You'll see this pick up as the months turn warmer and we start picking up for the summer construction season. But overall, I think we're right where we need to be in the first half of the fiscal year. Month-to-month fund balance, again, you can see we're running very much in alignment with where we're at in the previous year. In fact, just slightly ahead. This slide, again, is useful to show the difference from this around December from the last year's December. You can see that we received no federal funding in this past month of December, whereas the prior year we received almost $143,000. Again, a lot of that is dependent on when we file expenditure reports. What I was unhappy to see this go around is usually we receive some sort of federal payment for food service. That actually was delayed and didn't come until the beginning of this month. So you'll see that on the month of January. But again, overall, a slide is useful to show month-to-month comparison. From this slide, you can see that compared to where our budget is at versus the projections. We're I think right in line with where we should be. There's nothing that's really outlandish compared to our budget. Debt service, the one item of note here is we are going to be making our first bond payment on the new bonds that we took out last November. Though that payment's going to go out sometime this week. So you'll see that in next month's treasurer's report. All right, finally, the most important slide of the treasurer's report, the cash flow. You'll see that, again, we are running a very small surplus at about $750,000. I'm not quite sure what my screen is doing up there. $750,000. I think this is really our new reality. For the last couple of years, the districts all across the state have been spoiled with larger surpluses. Why is that? Because the district saw an influx of federal dollars. There was high CPI that we were capturing off of property tax revenue. And we had a rate of expense that was not increasing as much as our revenue, right? Now that we are no longer receiving that massive influx of federal money, CPI is no longer at 5, 6, 7%. We're going to see our budgets act like they normally would pre-COVID, and that is the amount of surplus that a district is reasonably going to expect to have is actually going to be minimal. Keep in mind, when we build our budgets, we basically assign every dollar that comes in a job. It's assigned to an expense, right? And we have a balanced budget by assuming that if we spend every dollar we take in on what we're allocated it to, that everything is going to zero out, will equal a balanced budget. Right now, I think we're in good shape. Keep in mind that this fiscal year's budget did not include any federal funding with the exception of Title I and IDEA funding. Next year's budget, I'm going to completely remove Title and just leave IDEA in. If we get Title funds, great. But I think the prudent approach would be to assume that we're not going to get those funds. We just can't trust what's coming out of Washington at this point. You're going to see in our operating fund summary, you see that our education fund is running a healthy surplus. Keep in mind, we're going to have to reallocate some of those funds to, say, the IMRF Social Security Fund, the O&M fund, to keep those balances from getting too low. Well, we've been in a position over the last couple of years where we've had some higher fund balances within those funds. We've been trying to spend them down to get them so that we're not being challenged for tax purposes. So we're going to have to reallocate that. So my main message here is that we're running a $750,000 surplus now, but there's a lot of unknowns out there. And it's very possible that come the end of this fiscal year, that surplus could be smaller than what it's projected to be. Just a couple of things foreshadowing where we're going. We do know that next year's fiscal budget, fiscal year 27, is based off a 2.9% CPI. The CPI figure for this past December, which will guide fiscal year 28's revenue budget, is 2.7%. So that gives the board an idea of what realistically our revenues are going to grow by, at least from our most reliable source of income, and that's property tax, right? The state has said that they're going to try to commit to continuing to fund evidence-based funding. I think they're going to be able to follow through with that this year. I'm not so sure about future years with that. And finally, if there was ever a time for this board and boards throughout McHenry County, I'm going to go back to that facility, the countywide facility sales tax. One of our neighboring districts recently did some preliminary research into this and determined that almost 46% of the revenues generated from that sales tax would come from people who do not live in McHenry County, that are coming here to travel through on their way to Wisconsin or going to any of the Woodstock Square, the McHenry Riverwalk. These are people that are coming from outside that are spending money in our community, of which if we had this countywide facility sales tax, those funds would be divvied up amongst all the school districts in the county, and it would not be coming from our property tax base. The board has always asked, well, what revenue options do we have that is not going to burden our homeowners and our property tax base? This is really it at this point. This is one of those ways that if someone doesn't want to pay this tax, they simply do not buy the object that they're looking to buy. So I'm going to continue to harp on this. I know the superintendents in the county are going to be discussing this at some point, and this is going to be an item that's going to come back to the board as we continually look for ways to increase our revenues without burdening our property tax base. And finally, investments. You can see we have a rather large list of investments still. Very happy with how the investments are turning out in that every couple months we have a certain amount that mature. And at that point, we evaluate whether we're going to need those funds to pay for construction projects. If we don't, we send them back and we reinvest them. So we've got a nice little laddered approach here where we have investments maturing and then being able to reinvest as we're able to. Just a reminder that the board has committed to using some of these maturing funds to help offset the transportation center project and initially our solar panel project, of which we're starting to plan for the rebates that we're going to get starting in fiscal year 27. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about our budget's performance through the midway point of the year.
I don't have any questions. Congratulations on your transition. I've gone through data transitions. They're terrible. I do hope you never have to do it again. Thank you for your team's work and the admin's team's work on getting payroll out. No one wants to be late on that. So that is a big deal. And for the late hours that I'm sure everyone was pulling, I appreciate it. And also, I don't have any other questions about the budget. I appreciate your laddered structure. I'm looking at our investments. I love that this screen has become a whole second slide now because it doesn't fit with the rest of them. You're doing great work, and I appreciate your approach to risk management. You're doing it well.
Yeah, I'm learning. I mean, I learned how to invest just from you, Mr. Shepherd. So thank you. And I do want to follow up what Mindy said. Thank your team for being away from their families and being in the building and working on the transition. And you've been very mindful to just the time that your employees have put in. And it's really nice to see that you really are seeing them and all the hard work that they're doing and that you're sharing that with the board. About the countywide sales tax, what is it that the board can be doing? Should we be showing up somewhere and supporting it? Is it a thing? What is it?
So in order for that, that would have to be on the ballot countywide. And in order to get that question on the ballot for, say, November or beyond, you have to have school boards that represent at least 51% of the student population vote to approve that measure. If that happens, it then becomes a countywide issue, and the whole county will vote on it. So what can this board do? I would highly encourage you, if you have any contacts on other boards in the area, to start the conversation of what can we do to start talking about this within each of our school communities in McHenry County, to start educating our taxpayers that this is not a tax on food or your essentials. It is deliberately created so that it's a tax on things that would be considered non-essential, right? And start educating the public on. You're always asking us to reduce property taxes or reduce the burden that property tax payers face. This is one of those things that we can do. So a lot of it right now is educating those in the community. It's working with the other boards to try to gain momentum to get this on the ballot. I am, as you can tell, I am in favor of this. I will always be in favor of this concept. And I don't know of any of the other business officials in the county, school district level, that are against it. But really, this is going to require action from other district boards, this one included, to try to get this on the ballot. And it's going to start with the discussion at the superintendent level to try to see when we should bring this back officially to the board, because what we have talked about is trying to move on this in a unified fashion with the same message. So right now we're kind of talking to whoever will listen at this point on this concept and why it's a good idea, not only to our local boards, but those that have contacts in Springfield to try to get this possibly passed this spring so that it wouldn't have to be a ballot initiative. I don't know if they're going to have that be successful in the spring. We can hope. So it's a very long-winded way of saying, get out there, start talking to people, and let's see if we can't build this from the ground up.
As Mr. Shepherd said, this is on the superintendent agenda for the countywide superintendent meeting, which is in February. So something that we will be talking about. So I'm assuming there's likely going to be some guidance that we'll be able to give to the board. And as Mr. Shepherd also said, we're trying to do this in a unified fashion so that all of the boards are being informed about this and what it is and what can be done and all of that at the same time. So I would expect in February, there will be more information to share.
Can you point us to where we can get the details about the facilities tax? Like, so if we are gonna spread the word, we can point someone, if you want to know more about it, go here.
So I'll see what resources I have, and we could possibly include it in the weekend review for you to look at. I do know that of the counties in the immediate area, Boone County actually has this in place. They were able to pass it. So a good first step would be researching what they've done in Boone County. I know for a fact that the revenue that's generated in Boone County for they've got two school districts, by the way, in that county, Belvedere and North Boone. One of the districts uses the funds that they receive from the sales tax to provide property tax relief. They use those funds to pay off bonds, and then they abate other funds. The other one is funding their capital improvements year to year based on that revenue. I'll see what information I have that may be useful for you to disseminate.
Thank you.
Quick question, Mr. Shepherd. First of all, kudos to getting over to Skyward. I'm thrilled that we're there, and I know that wasn't easy. And then the learning curve for that can be really steep. On that $1.3 million, $1.2 million T-bill that's coming up at the end of the month, are we going to park that one again, or is that going to construction? I'm just asking because T-bills are going up and up and up. It'd be great to park it again for another 6 months.
At this time, I think we're going to be able to reinvest it.
Okay, great. That's good news for us then. I didn't know what the plan was, if that was something that was coming due for transportation center or solar or something like that. But if we could leave that, that'd be great.
I'm feeling pretty comfortable that I think unless something changes in the next couple of weeks, we are going to be able to reinvest most, if not all of that, with the idea that whatever we have coming due in April is then going to start being earmarked for construction costs.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And nice work to you and your team.
Question? Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. We'll go on to the next item, which is the policy 6235, access to electronic networks. Dr. Thomas.
So we brought this back in light of bringing back the information about AI that we discussed earlier. And the section specifically that we wanted to look at was it's on page 2 of the policy. If you look at our policy book, what we included in the board packet was actually the press policy information, because press has the footnotes, which are not actually part of the policy, but give some additional information. So the AI, when we talked about this back in June, and Mrs. Potter, thank you for the reference to where it was on the video. So that was really helpful. I reviewed that today, and we looked at that. And so this particular section really talks about that it's really that we recognize that we have AI tools. The district is charged because we have those, that we will put together a plan. So that's exactly what's happening now. The plan is being developed. There's a lot of work left to do. Phase 1 is done, and as you all saw, it's a tremendous amount of work. The board did approve the policy to include this section, but I do want to remind the board that the section on AI that's in this policy is optional. It's not required to be in policy. So at this point, we talked about bringing the plan and bringing this policy back at this time, which is what we're doing. I don't have any recommendations right now for changing the policy. I think where we're working with the plan fits very well with what's charged in policy. But I would recommend, because we're bringing the AI plan, which will be in a more complete form at that point at the end of the year, that we should also bring this policy back. Because as you pointed out earlier, Mrs. Potter, there are some items that we're going to need to reconsider in policy that might be a little bit more specific. We also might have more information from the state. And Ms. Williams did a great job of taking the things that are in the House bill and pulling them in, which the committee did that. I think that's fantastic. So I, again, don't have any recommendations for updates, but I did want the board to take a chance to look at this one more time now. And I would recommend bringing this policy back as well when we bring back the updated AI presentation.
Any questions, comments?
That October press issue is gonna be a doozy.
As it always is. So yeah, so there will be a lot with that. The other thing is, just so that the board is aware, related to this, is that we just today, Mrs. Dorfler and I talked to IASB about the procedure manual, and that is kicking off now too. And all of the procedure manual that we start with is, because ours is quite outdated, is based on the policies. So there might be some things and procedures that we don't know that they've already added or included for the AI component. We have that in our policy. So that may be something that's showing up in procedures. So we'll know that over the next 2 to 3 months as well. So we should, at the end of the school year, be able to present some more information from that too.
All right, thank you, Dr. Thomas. All right, next up we have school district calendars for 2026, 2027, and for 2027, 2028. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. So we have for the board, and I think this is the first time we've done this, 2 calendars, the next 2 school years. The calendar committee met and actually drafted these 2 calendars last year, and then we've met a couple times this year to review the calendars, updates at the state level, and we also surveyed the staff, particularly about professional development and where the professional development days fall. There was some thought to move more professional development to the beginning of the year, so we surveyed staff to see what they wanted. And really, overwhelmingly, people wanted to keep with 2 full day professional development days prior to the start of school, one in January and one in October and one in January. Change that we made this year was the January Professional Development Day. We actually moved up and moved it to the day after winter break would normally have ended, and did it before students came back. So students essentially had one more day of break, and the staff had one day to come in to do, there's a lot of professional development offered that day, but also had a moment to be able to just get their things ready, get classrooms ready for the start of school. We got surveys back before we did that particular day, but the feedback from that day that I have heard so far has been overwhelmingly positive, having that day, knowing that that was coming up. So we did incorporate that into the next 2 school years calendars. It initially had not been there. We made some updates on the draft that had been done last year. Also to Easter Monday seems to float around and sometimes shows up and sometimes doesn't. So we aligned all of those. And then also we made a move. We took a look at, the calendar committee looked at the absence data of certified staff members on those professional development days, both full days and half days, when they were attached to a holiday weekend, when they weren't attached to a holiday weekend, beginning of the year, end of the year, to take a look at that. And what we found was the October date had a very high absence rate that was connected to the Indigenous Peoples' Day, Columbus Day holiday weekend. So the calendar committee did recommend moving that up to a Wednesday instead, because so many staff members were absent. And we looked at data for the last 2 years, and that was routinely a very high rate of staff absence. So the calendar is that you have is there before you with the start and end dates. Just 2 minor changes on the professional development days. The one thing we did talk about with the October day is we're going to look at student attendance this next upcoming year, student attendance on the Friday of Indigenous Day Peoples Weekend. If student attendance is very low that day because families are traveling and taking that day. That's something that the team may come back and reconsider for the following year. We have to balance student absence, staff absence, and try to come up with a good balance there. So that's one thing that we are going to look at again next year. But the team felt comfortable to go ahead and bring these 2 years forward. We do have the next 2 years after this also drafted. We're going to be doing one more meeting to kind of finalize that. Just trying to make sure that those are set up for the next person coming in.
I have a question. When you're finalizing these, I think it is awesome that you are doing that much of an in-depth study as to who's where they're supposed to be and when they're there and what's causing them to miss. I think that is amazing because if we can realign and get PD to a day people are coming, obviously that is much more impactful. But my question is, as you're making those decisions or you got that data, does this information exist somewhere so that when you are no longer here or none of us are here, someone could be like, yes, we did that one. This is why this change came. This is why, the Monday after winter break is now going to be a professional development day. We did that, turned out, surveyed. It was awesome. I assume the families, I don't know what the families think. This family, our students were thrilled to have an extra day of winter break, right? So I'm just wondering if there's any sort of historical anything that is tracking, this is how we got to this.
So we do have that in our notes from the calendar committee meeting. Also, that information, like survey information and the staff absence information is also shared with the CEA executive board. So we shared that at our meeting this past, I guess it was last week. And I shared that also with the administrative team. Actually, that's up for tomorrow. So that it has been shared so that that information is out there. And I'll tell you, the calendar committee, the folks on the calendar committee are consistent people that have been on it for a long time. So they have a tremendous history just within that group, which is really helpful too.
Just to state the obvious, because I can't imagine we have a conversation about this and someone doesn't say it. We are not aligning to 155 on this calendar, correct?
So we're not aligned to 155 directly because they start so early, because the way their semester break is. We are pretty aligned. We worked with District 47's calendar so that we are very closely aligned with District 47, and we're all aligned for things like spring break, and our winter breaks are almost 100% overlap as well. The start and end dates are a little bit different because the high school schedule is so much earlier.
And I guess my concern is I understand why we do it. I understand it's going to be an ongoing debate in this community, probably until the end of time. But I guess my question is there a concern of approving 2 years of calendars? Because to me, that kind of forecloses the conversation and it's never coming back. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. And the secondary part of approving 2 calendars is you said you still wanted to get one more data. So since we've never approved 2 before, I've never been in a process where we have to revise a calendar. Can you just, I know there's a question in there somewhere, even if it's not coming out.
So we have had to revise calendars periodically in the past. The most common one that, and actually we were just talking about it earlier tonight, is election day. Sometimes shows up as it has to be a day off, and sometimes it isn't, and sometimes we've already approved the calendar. So there is a process that we bring it back to the board if we're making an update and doing an approval. So it can. So if that were to happen with it could happen with next year's too. If they suddenly tell us November has to be off for election day, then we'll have to update the calendar. But there is a process for that. And it basically comes back to the board for approval. And then we update that through ISB as well. And I will say, and I think it is the 28-29 school year. We did check with 155 and 47. And it does look in that year, because the way the calendar falls, we're actually going to be starting at the same time as 155. Based on what they're looking at. So for that year, not these 2, but the year after, we will align.
And then we'll have a test case to see how much better that all worked out for the community. Because right now it's something half of us want and half of us don't.
Thank you. Are we good with putting that on consent?
I have a really quick
Okay.
question. Do you know how many school days this calendar?
For students, it's 100. It's 176 school days for students, but oh goodness. Thank you. 2 of those school days of the 176 are actually conference days. The 2 conference days in November actually count as student attendance days. So it's 174 total of students in attendance plus 2 conference days and 180 days for the staff.
All right. I have a policy question. Ours says, our policy 620, it says that we shall have a minimum of 185 days to ensure 176 days of actual student attendance. Is that the snow days?
That's the snow days. Mhm.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Are we all good with consent on this? Okay, you can move that to consent, please. All right, next up, we have registration fees for 2026, 2027. Mr. Shepherd.
So it's that time of year again where the board needs to decide what the registration fees are going to be for the upcoming fiscal year. This is historically the time that we bring this item back to the board. I don't believe registration officially opens until the beginning of March. So we wanted to bring this to the board now for discussion purposes. My initial recommendation is going to be to leave the rates flat, unchanged from the prior year. And here's why. I had toyed around with the idea of lowering the rates again this year. However, when we look at the amount that we risk and the possibility that federal funding is not going to come through, the amount that the registration fees bring into the district roughly matches what we would lose from the federal title funds if we do not receive any of those dollars. Being that we use a lot of our title funds for supplies and whatnot, I felt it prudent that registration fees which are earmarked to help offset those costs, remain flat. I am going to continue to look at ways to reduce fees in the future, pending the economic environment. I have made no secrets about it. In my perfect world, I'd like to try to get to a point where we can eliminate these registration fees in some way, shape, or form. I don't think we're there yet for this upcoming year. And my recommendation at this point would be to leave the rates flat, unchanged from the prior fiscal year. But I'd be open to any suggestions or ideas that the board has at this time in regards to registration fees.
Okay, I have an idea. And I know that we discussed this, and if I'm fine with the plan of leaving them flat, but I did want to bring to the board, just in case you guys were willing to entertain the idea of streamlining our fee structure, moving from the tiered structure that we have now to a flat fee structure if possible. And my rationale being equity, easier for everyone. The fees aren't a revenue generator, but also D26 is kind of an outlier with how our fees are structured, with the other districts have them being more streamlined, but I didn't realize from like an equity standpoint until I had a student in the junior high that how much more expenses there are for the families in the junior high. There's the fancy calculator, there's the gym uniform, there's science goggles, there's sports, and there's clubs. And we're paying the most for registration. So I was wondering, and I crunched some numbers, and however much I want to rearrange it, we could come about the same. But I don't know if the board wants to look into that or ask for next year, possibly to go towards, if it would be possible to do, or just bring whatever possibilities the business department would be able to come up with, streamlining that for our families.
When you say streamlining, you mean look at it from like a K-8 perspective and then just average out that let's just say it's $50 on average, it's $50 per family for a year, hypothetically, right? We would start at kindergarten, go 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, all the way through eighth grade. Is that what you mean by that? Are you talking about it? I'm trying to understand,
What I mean is like, right now, if you're looking at it,
like K
Depend-
is different than 1 through 5, is different
Right.
than 6 through 8, right? So you're just saying take whatever the cost it would be to graduate K through 8, and then divide it by 9 years, and then just charge that per family every year.
I didn't even think about it that way, but that, I guess, that didn't even cross my mind, like, to think about it that way, and that's why I like, brainstorming with you. What I'm really thinking about is I guess in the simplest way is K through 8 would be paying the same amount of registration fee.
A year, right? But we would figure
Right.
that out based upon how, right, as of like this year's number.
Fee instead of these tiered.
It'd be easy. Oh, it's August 1st. My $75 to D26 is, and I know it's not 75, Dave. I'm not recommending that. But whatever that average is across all 9 years would be due every year.
No, and maybe we're thinking about the same thing in a different way. I'm thinking, if you have a kindergartner, if you have a first grader, and if you have an eighth grader, it's $100 flat. I mean, like $300 is what you're paying. It costs $100.
But to figure, to
Register.
get to that $100 spot, you would take the cost it would be for all 9 years. That way, when it gets more expensive, because or eighth graders do use lab materials, they do use PE uniforms, et cetera, right? It isn't going to be more expensive here, but we would spread that out across all 9 years for the family. So they know it's going to be $100 a year.
No.
Okay.
But it could go up.
It could go up, right?
But, so I assume that the difference in price represents the resource changes, the staff, commitment to a certain grade level. I assume that's why we have, and then of course, band and tech fees are. But so was that the thought behind it, is this represents, this is more money because this student costs more money.
Yeah, I think the general rule is that as a student advances through their educational career, that as they get to the upper grade levels, that it does cost more to educate those students, because the resources cost more. They're doing more in-depth activities that require more in the way of resources and materials. So yeah, I think that's historically why you would see registration fees get higher as the students age.
Is that typical in other districts? And do parents want that kind of transparency? Is that why it's, laid out in this way?
I don't know if there's ever actually been the opportunity to survey families on the fee structure to get a sense of why it was formulated this way. Again, my guess would be that school districts generally have just looked at it in an eighth grader is going to cost more to educate, and therefore the fee is going to be higher. Some districts build in the athletic fee and the extracurricular fee within their registration fee. Is just all in one. I'm not necessarily in favor of doing that, because you have students that don't necessarily do track and field. So why should they have to pay for that? But there are districts that do that. Districts will combine their tech fee and registration fee into one fee. There are ways we can do this. Depending on how much the fee structure would change, that would determine whether it would be implemented this upcoming year, or we'd have to look at it over the next year for the school year after that. So that would be the fiscal year 28. Yeah.
So Catherine, just to go back to our conversation here, just running the numbers quick while Ms. Sandlin was talking. It would be 1414 for all 9 years, kindergarten full day, grades 1 through 5, and then grades 6 through 8. Given these numbers right here, we would divide that number by 9. It would be about it's $157. So let's round it up to 160 for easy numbers, right? Kindergarten through eighth grade would be 160, would still cover all of that unless you have it set up, Dave, where you take those kindergarten fees, Mr. Shepherd, sorry, you take those kindergarten fees and you earmark them towards Oak Knoll, or does it just go into one big
No.
pot?
Yeah, so the registration fees go into our revenue budget on the revenue side of the house. And in theory, you could tie those into instructional resource materials. Not necessarily if a Oak Knoll student pays the fee at Oak Knoll, doesn't mean that those dollars that they particularly gave are going directly to an Oak Knoll
Right.
resource. It's going to the resource budget as a
Okay,
whole.
As a whole. So like if we were to do something flat, K-8, that wouldn't screw anything up.
No,
on the
no.
receiving end. Okay. Just an idea, just tossing that out there.
Just to clarify too, so people know, these fees cannot be used for teachers or staff. It can only be for things like consumables, technology, and things like that. And these fees represent just a fraction of what those things actually cost the district. But just so people know that this cannot be used for actually for staff, it has to be for consumable type items.
Yeah, when I was crunching the numbers, I was using the 25-26 staffing plan, and I was only using full day K-8. I was not considering the blended, that in the ECE that was getting complicated. And I wasn't considering any kind of fee waivers either, but, yeah, I crunched numbers for a while. I did the all grades K-8 at 148. And I timed it, but 2,249, which was the number of the students in that plan, and it came up to a difference of 21,000. But then when different to do it where kindergarten, that rate would just be 148, and then grades 1 through 8 would be 158, just like simplifying it. And then I don't know. I'm just wondering if the board would understand or want to take a look at simplifying this.
I guess from my perspective, I'm not necessarily seeing the equity thing because we just went through the thought process that eighth graders don't need the same things that first graders need, don't need the same things that preschoolers need. I'm on board with keeping them flat. I do appreciate anything we can do to our community to provide some relief. Yes. And since we'd already gone down, I certainly didn't think you were coming back to us and saying, let's go down again. We're not there yet, but we'll take flat. And if you want my 2 cents on any of the things on this list, if you lumped the tech fee into the regular registration fee, every one of our students gets tech now. So kind of if I take my board member hat on and I'm only talking to you as a parent, I don't need to see the tech fee separately. If I have to pay it and my student is going to get tech, lump it into the fee. But if you want to be transparent and we did earmark it differently, I see why it's there. But otherwise, that's the only thing I really have input on.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is nobody really cares. Because I'm just saying. Okay, well, at least thanks for entertaining it. I mean, I don't know. Wait till you get all your kids in the junior high and you have to pay for all that extra stuff and you're still paying the most in fees. I'm trying, people.
So if there's consensus to keep the rates flat, my recommendation would be for the board to approve this next week at the regular board meeting.
Okay, next item we have up is the Oak Knoll window abatement bid. Mr. Shepherd.
This is actually going to be Mr. Martin's going to be our closer tonight. He is going to take us home with the abatement bid results for the Oak Knoll window replacement project. Just a little bit of background here before Mr. Martin reviews the bidding process. Keep in mind, this all came about last year as we were getting ready to replace the windows at Oak Knoll and discovered that there was asbestos in the sealant that was used around the windows, despite the fact that the windows had been, I believe, replaced in the 1990s. There should have been no reason why asbestos was ever used at that point in time. Regardless, we discovered it, so we have to abate it. So we went through the bidding process, and I'm going to toss it over to Mr. Martin, who will give a brief overview and our recommendation.
Good evening, everybody. So the bid we had conducted by Integrity Environmental Services. They're our consultant on the bid. And again, it's for the asbestos abatement work at the Oak Knoll Early Childhood Center. And we're scheduling those windows to replace and that abatement being done in June 2026. So it supports planned construction activities and ensures continued compliance with all the applicable state and federal asbestos regulations. So we did have to comply with those regulations. So the bidding process summary, we had a mandatory bid meeting to talk to all the potential contractors. It was well attended. We had 12 qualified abatement contractors. So there's a lot of interest in the project and a lot of competition. At the bid, 9 contractors submitted bids and the January 15th bid deadline. All the bids were publicly open, reviewed for responsiveness, required documentation, and acknowledgement of the addenda. So the one addenda we did add to the project was about boarding up the openings, depending on if the window company, Auburn Windows, when they are ready to install the new windows, so that if there was any openings, they would be totally sealed and weatherproofed. And then the abatement company could work ahead, and then the window company would follow them and put windows in as the openings were available. And to make sure everything was nice and secure by the end of the day. So addendum number 1 was to clarify again the window opening board up and protection requirements. This addendum was properly acknowledged by all responsive bidders considered for the award. The bids were reviewed again for the 10% bid bond, contractor qualification statement, and the acknowledgement of the addenda. So the bid results, the lowest bid was by the same company that did the Briargate windows. So that was EHC Industries, and they came in at $64,850. Unfortunately, they were non-responsive due to missing the addendum acknowledgement. And that board up addenda it's a big expense and important to that project. So them missing that kind of disqualified them as being non-responsive. The second lowest bid was by Hussar Abatement, and that was in the amount of $66,000. So just a slight difference there. And then the other bids, the other 7 bids ranged from $70,250 all the way up to $115,500. All the pricing was reviewed against the project scope and the engineer's expectations. So they all looked good besides that one missing addenda. Contractor evaluation. So the Hussar Abatement, so they submitted a complete and responsive bid. They acknowledged the addenda, provided all required bid documentation, and received a positive letter of recommendation from the Integrity Environmental Services. They worked with them in the past, cited satisfactory past performance, regulatory compliance, quality of work in similar school districts. So even though they were just the second highest bid, they had all the same qualifications as the company we used for Briargate. So our recommendation in the Finance and Operations Department, based on the bid responsiveness, completeness, the past performance, the pricing. So we recommend to award the Oak Knoll Early Childhood Center asbestos abatement project to Hussar Abatement in the amount of the $66,000. And our rationale, of course, they were the most responsive bidder and second lowest in price. And then that represents, full transparency, had all the information there and great value to the district. And then last but not least, the requested board action is to approve the award to Hussar Abatement for the asbestos abatement services at Oak Knoll Childhood Center to be performed in June 2026. Any questions?
I have a
a question about process. If we have worked with EHC before and they came in really close, does someone pick up the phone and say, hey, did you mean to not do this? Did you leave it off? Or because it's sealed, we're not allowed to do that?
Well, like after the fact. So the company EHC, so in their letter of recommendation, they did have uh, full, recommendation for both companies because they did work with both in the past. And me myself, like I was like, oh, great, everything went so well in that really condensed time frame at Briargate that EHC was the lowest. But then again, they weren't the most responsive. So, and EHC, the gentleman we work with, his name's Guy, he did call him and say, hey, this is what happened. They totally understood. Like, we know we kind of messed that up. And there was actually another contractor whose car broke down on the way in. And so they weren't able to put their bid in as well because they were going to miss that morning timeline. So we did have to disqualify, like a couple of contractors, not just EHC, just mark them as not responsive.
So I would, when we receive the bids, they are sealed, and we then evaluate them based on what is being opened at the bid opening, which is held in public. We tally the bids at that time. So in order to shield ourselves from any challenges that could come about, as technical as something like that is, we could, if the board were to recommend the true lowest bidder, we could open ourselves to a challenge on this simply because someone could come in and say, hey, their bid was not the most responsive because they were missing this at the time of the bid opening. So that would be the reason for the recommendation.
I am all for certainly following the rules and making sure that we are not doing those challenges. I don't want to pay any more lawyers. I know how much we charge.
So I have a question. They're all working with the same amount of square footage for this building. Who fills out this tabulation? Because the first one is $1 a square or $1 a square foot, and their price is 79,000. Our bid that we're going with is $2,400 a square foot, and they're 66,000. So I don't know how these numbers are.
So that one, that should have been more clarified. That was going to be a deduction in the pricing for any square foot that wasn't needed to be abated. So looking at that column, so that should have showed deduction of square footage from the pricing of the bid if they didn't have to do some of the openings. So yeah, there's a great range in deduction of possibilities like in that square footage. Yeah, so that should have been clarified a little bit better on the tabulation sheet.
Calculator, but something's not making sense.
So we actually asked that after the bid opening when we were looking at the tabulation sheet, and then we realized that's the deduction amount at that point.
Okay, just so I'm really clear, black and white. It's not 2,000, like if we go with Hussar, because that's the responsive bidder, it's not $2,400 per square feet. That is up to $2,400 could come off the top of this if they don't have to do that work.
Correct.
Wonderful.
All right, perfect. Any other questions?
Thank you for clarifying that we are going to be protective. I am certainly in favor of being protective. And so next week when you come back, yeah, let's do that. That's the right way to go.
Oh, it's over 35. Yeah, no, we'll have to vote on it. Yep, so bring it back again. All right. Next up, we have,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Closed session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body 5 ILCS 120-2C1. We have a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved.
Any discussion? Could you take a vote, please?
Jason Jansic.
Yes.
Dee Darling.
Yes.
Julie Jetty.
Yeah.
Stacy Salt. Bridget Sandlin.
Yeah.
Catherine Potter.
Yes.
Mindy Hartman.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Open session ends at 7:28 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.